Hello, welcome to Enterprising People 702, the podcast. I'm so happy that you joined us here in fabulous Las Vegas. Today's going to be a really interesting show. We are talking about anger and all the chaos with one of us, the specialist here in Las Vegas, has a wonderful company, Anger Management 702, Lamonte Faison, and we're going to get to him in just a second. But again, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. And if you would like to subscribe, just push that little button right down there and push subscribe and become a subscriber to Enterprising People 702. We really would appreciate it. And it's free, so why not? Again, we're coming live to you from fabulous Las Vegas. Now, we also want to thank our sponsor, SilverStateSmiles.com, best dentist in Las Vegas, voted by the Review Journal newspaper. So they really have all the experts with 9 different locations here in Nevada. So we so celebrate them for bringing you Enterprising People 702. Now, without any further ado, I want to introduce our guest. He's a wonderful gentleman with a lot of law enforcement background, and he started this fabulous company, Anger Management 702, and his name is Lamonte Faison. Hi, Lamonte. How are you?
Hey, Kim. Hey, Charles. We in the building.
Yes. And I have to say, yes, I'm joined today with my fabulous husband, Charles Theroux. Hi, honey.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the introduction.
Yes, because we want to get into this, and I think it's so apropos, given where we are as a country, given where we are socially, economically, and what really sparks anger in individuals and situations. Lamonte, before we get started in this discussion, I just wanted to kind of get a little backstory on you and your background and how you started this company.
Well, what's interesting about this, I went to the Marine Corps at 18 years old. And I remember, I think the first 2 weeks in boot camp, they wanted to put me in anger management. And I told them I didn't have an anger management issue. And unfortunately, 18 months later, I assaulted a Marine. They ended up getting kicked out of the military at a young age. I think I was 19 and a half years old. And then ultimately, I ended up going to counseling. And later on in life, I ended up going into law enforcement, where I was at Southern Desert Correctional Facility working a program called the Youth Offenders Program. These were juveniles that were adjudicated as adults. And I noticed that a lot of them were angry and upset. And again, it's not about being angry, because the anger is an emotion. All right. It's a secondary emotion. Usually it's preempted by something. So it's not the anger in itself. It's the response when we get angry. So that's how I got in this business. I said, well, man, if I had that problem and didn't know really what was going on with it, maybe I can help some other people identify. So, I went to school, graduated from college, and did what I needed to do and said, hey, I'm going to start this company called Anger Management 702. And my goal is to help people become the best version of themselves.
Wow. And it's so needed, Lamonte, right now, because you don't just see anger in adults. We see anger in children as well.
Yes, absolutely. And what tends to happen is, especially when we teach our classes in the domestic violence classes, children typically model their parents.
Yes.
Or their environment, right?
Yes.
So however you are handling or resolving your conflict, young people are paying attention to that. Mm-hmm. And usually the smaller you are or the younger you are is the more impressionable you are, because your brain is like a sponge. So my stepfather used to throw pots. He used to slam doors. Well, guess what I started doing when I was growing up? When I would get angry, I would do the same thing, because I believed that was normal behavior.
Wow.
And so we see a lot of that in the schools. And I actually believe they need to have anger management in the schools today, in the school district. So that's something that I'm getting ready to push for here soon.
Yeah. And before we start further in the discussion, I just want to get a definition. How are we defining anger management?
Well, anger in itself is an emotion. Yeah. Anger in itself, that's it. That's what anger is. The issue is not our anger, it's the anger response. So when we're talking about response, we're talking about strategically being responsive, using something we call second thought. We're thinking, we're stopping before we actually respond to a situation, looking for the best possible decision for that event or situation. All right. So again, anger is not an issue. It's our response to it. And that's what I will be kind of elaborating on today, because I don't want people to be confused and say, I can't get angry.
Yeah.
If you do something to my child, I'm going to be angry. But
Yeah.
how I respond is what's going to be key.
Yeah. And now we have, we were just looking online, Charles and I, and people are so angry. And I'm taking this one subject matter just to kind of tie in technology, expressing their feelings online on the internet with Nick Cannon and TLC's Chili because of their recent statements, or with Chili, a post that she reposted on Michelle Obama as it pertains to, really more so with the Black community. Because we idolize Michelle Obama. So if anybody says anything against Michelle Obama,
Right.
and I think also with Nick Cannon just being supportive of a Donald Trump right now, people are offended by that. Him being an African American man. And so they're expressing their anger online. So do you believe that the internet is playing into more anger in our country, or with social media, or do you believe it's a venting process, that when you vent, maybe that's a better way to vent?
Well, the first thing is the anger has been out there for a long time. We just have a new gateway in how to put it out there. People have a voice because we have social media. So now people are able to express themselves, and now we're able to read it and hear it because we have social media.
Yeah.
No longer do you have to be a journalist to go out there and get a podcast or get on the microphone or get a bunch of people together and get on a platform and vent if that's what you want to do. I think the issue that I have, though, I don't have a problem with Nick Cannon. I don't have a problem with Chili, because here's what I understand. The Black community is not monolithic. We don't all think alike, and we do not have to think alike. I may not agree with your stance, but I'm certainly not going to be talking about I need you to get canceled and start flipping out like I'm going to cancel the show and do all of these other things. Because what we call that in anger management and domestic violence is power and control. Those are power and control mechanisms. If you don't act the way I want you to act, if you don't say what I want you to say, if you don't do what I want you to do, I want to take something away from you. And if you remember, what's this, about 3 months ago, you guys, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel, they want to take him off because he made a comment. You want to take the man off of air because you do not agree with him. And if we're going to stand up in the Black community and talk about the community and talk about that's wrong, it's equally as wrong to do it to your own people because they have a different stance with you. Now, I can listen to Nick Cannon. I can support them in what they do, but I can still disagree at the same time without going in and portraying them as traitors. You don't have to be a traitor because you have a different point of view. And I think that's what's important here.
Wow, that's good. And Charles,
Good point.
You had said similar to what Lamonte is saying, right?
Absolutely. Everyone has a different opinion, and their mindset is shaped based on how they grew up. So we all bring something different to the table when we show up. So we shouldn't all be thinking the same. That's what makes society what it is. A great society is that we all have different upbringings, different experiences, and provided we have good mental health and a solid education, you're going to get the kind of atmosphere that you want. But if mental health is definitely a factor when we're talking about how people are responding on social media, because a lot of people that are productive and they're trying to plan for their future, they're not spending a whole lot of time on social media. They're working. So the ones that you see commenting the most and throwing the most venom are people that are suffering in their own way. And I'll say it again, mental health is a very, very big issue, and it has been for a long time. And social media has really brought it to the forefront because it magnifies what really is. A lot of
Yes.
behavior that we've seen in our community that we thought of as, oh, this person's a bully. Oh, this person, I don't know why they're talking to me like that. I don't know why they're looking at me like that. We think that it's because of they have ill intent, when really they could just be ill, and they need counseling, and society has not really given the go ahead or the positive affirmation towards mental health. We're getting there now, but for a
Yes.
long time, we see that person in church jumping up and down and losing their mind. That could be mental health, and it could be they could really be feeling the moment. But more than likely, if someone's really going overboard, there's some mental health factor in there.
Well,
Yes. And
go ahead, Lamonte.
I'll say this, and I'll turn the mic back over. And I agree with you a lot on this, Charles, because again, typically when we are showing our displeasure and we're angry and it comes out and it's expressed in certain type of ways, there typically is an underlying current that's going on within that individual. There's a core to that especially when we're talking about rage, which is a little bit different than anger, because people start going off and you want to attack the Capitol, you want to burn somebody's house down, you want to go shoot him. That's not just anger, that's rage, and usually that's attached to mental health, because there's some core underlying issues going on within you that has not been resolved. And Charles is right. For a long time, mental health, especially in the Black community, has been taboo. Men have been told, don't be vulnerable, don't cry, and because they said it's a weakness. And then what happens, the emotion that we express often is anger. And then our response to that anger typically ends up getting us in trouble, and we end up incarcerated, or something worse, maybe a fatality.
Yeah, yeah. I think that we said a lot. You and Charles said a lot in that. I want to identify these two subjects, though, as it relates to unification versus, and it's going back to Nick Cannon again, and Chile. Unification within one community, one unified thought. And I think people categorizes that almost with, okay, this is the Democratic Party, and that's how Nick Cannon associated he talked about Democrats historically. What the
Yes.
Democrats, he didn't go into the long history of the Democratic Party, but the Democratic Party did at one time. They were the ones that really, they were a part of the whole segregation, a part of this. And he called it the KKK at one time. There's a lot of history with that, which is true. W.E.B. Du Bois talks about it in his book. But I think the community and the Black community as a whole now, we all, I think it's embedded in many people in the community that we have to stick together as it pertains to the power structure. And what Nick Cannon expressed angered the Black community because they felt as though he violated that by talking about the Democratic Party. That has been one that I believe it's 98% African Americans are Democrats. But at the same time, he was expressing himself, his personal support for Donald Trump, but at the same time, he kind of he bashed the Democratic Party. Because a lot of people, and I believe Kanye West did this, where he felt as though he felt no freedom, constraints that the Democratic Party puts upon our people, where if we do have a different ideology, if we do have a different thought wave, that we cannot express those feelings because again, it's we're going against the unification of the Black community. But I argue that the unification of the Black community has been broken for a very long time. We saw us come when hardship has come about with Jim Crow, with a lot of things. We seem to always come together during that time. When something really devastating happens, we come together, mind, thought, and economics. I think economically, that has been broken, as well as us coming together as one, as it pertains to really just personal freedoms. And so there's two things. Nick Cannon says, I want to practice my personal freedom of thought, but I believe that it has been challenged because of the democratic ideologies.
Hmm.
So that's why he seems to be faring more with the Republican side of our country. But that angers many people within the Black community. One thing I think is always said within that we are not supposed to publicly bash anybody that look like us. We are not supposed to
Hmm.
do that. And I like the fact that you also brought up the attack on the Capitol Hill, because this is not just monolithic to just the Black community. White people have
Hmm.
anger issues, and that was exemplified with the attack on the Capitol. Uh,
Yes.
so everybody has this, but it wasn't us on that Capitol Hill attacking nobody.
Right. That is correct.
So it wasn't us, but at the same time, people are expressing their anger in so many various ways. And Lamonte, again, I do believe that, like you said, if the parent has anger issues, it trickles down to the children. But now we have a U.S. president that I don't know if he's so much. He seems to be very calm. He's not angry. He just want to take. He want to take countries. He wants to take away. I'm going to take this from you. I'm going to take that from you. And if you do something, I'm going to retaliate. And so a lot of people, so that this attitude of taking, commandeering, it does translate into anger in a lot of ways. Immigrants violate us because they don't look like us. They're not like
Hmm.
us.
Hmm.
So what do you say to that dynamic?
Well, there's some undertones there too, I believe, that's coming from this administration. No question about it. The interesting thing about it, we was talking about this the other day with a colleague, and one of the things that I said is that Donald Trump has given them permission to
Mhm.
operate and act out like that. And I want you to pay attention to something. ICE, and I'm a former law enforcement officer, ICE are doing things that are actually legal and against the law in certain things. When you take the person's weapon and then you shoot him anyway, then administration, let's stop the investigation, don't let the see. It's a whole lot of that going on. And yes, people are furious. People are angry. We just saw the No Kings rallies. Those things were those things were crazy crowded, right? People are upset. They're angry. The only thing I would suggest to those individuals: certainly express your First Amendment right.
Yeah,
Certainly do that. However, keep it peaceful, right?
yeah.
Do not bring other people in because of you're angry, and watch the way you respond. Because the very thing that you're protesting, when you get out there and respond in a violent or physical way, you now become what you say you opposed.
Hmm.
That's
Right.
right.
And that's what's important to me, even when I get people calling me saying, man, I'm so upset at what's going on in America. I get it. But tell me what you're going to do about it and how you are going to go about it. Because those are going to be my two questions. Because as soon as you say I need to go burn a house now, we going to have a we going to have a problem.
So
Right?
really, so Devontae, what you're saying is how we're channeling our anger.
Yes.
How are we channeling our anger? So yeah, you might be angry about something, but then what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do?
Hmm.
What action? But what about the people that say, well, I can't, because if somebody, and we see people, we feel they're breaking the laws. They're not even going as is stated in our Constitution. They're
Hmm.
violating the Constitution. Then people say, well, then what can I do if
Hmm.
all of these things are allowed?
Well, this is what I would say. Somebody asked me that question the other day. I said, go vote, educate your people, right? Because again, when we're talking about anger management, one thing we always say, I only can control what I can control.
That's right.
And that's me,
That's right.
right? I can't control what's going on at the White House unless we're voting. Sometime we win, sometime we lose. We use something called second thought. We're big William Glasser fans, choice theory. We believe that you are your choices, all right? And that if you get upset, if you get angry at something, that you make the choice not to put yourself in a volatile situation and get yourself in trouble. We believe you make that choice. We call it second thought. Is when you think before you respond or react to a situation. We are strategically responding. It's the same thing with our community in general when we get upset at each other, and I used to teach this at the jail. So when I talk to my community, even in the jail, I'm having this conversation. You mad at the guy and you guys want to get in fights, but tell me, what did that resolve? Because now both of you guys are here. I like the better approach. I'm going to use my second thought. I'm going to walk away from this situation and we can attempt to resolve this issue later if possible. If not, we will agree to disagree, but we both live to tell about it. Right. And so that's my mindset. Use your second thought. Think about what you're going to do. Remember, there's consequences to your actions. So if you're being angry and you go out there and get physical and do something, there's going to be another consequence. Now you angry and you are incarcerated. So now you got more issues to deal with, right? So again, second thought, strategically respond, and watch this. I'm a big fan of a book called The Four Agreements. We talk about being impeccable with your word in the first agreement. Second agreement, don't take it personal. 3, don't make assumptions. And 4, always give your best. What do I take out of that? Stop taking stuff personal. Consider who's saying things to you. Consider who's talking, right? You don't have to be what somebody else say you are just because they say it. So we got to get some thick skin, stop taking things personal, and that way we can move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
What do you say to those people who are comfortable going to jail? A lot of the times you hear them say, you know what, I got a whole lot of friends in jail. I ain't got no problem. No problem.
Watch this. It's almost like Iran. If you get people that don't care about life, then this stuff won't work on them. Because they don't care. If you will blow up a plane and you on it, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
That's right.
And
if you will blow yourself up on a plane, blow yourself up, then what we going to do?
That's right.
Right. But that's the thing, the mental options. Some people have options and some people don't have any options because of lack of exposure, lack of education, lack of a lot of things and the consequences to those actions. I think and I think with our president Trump, I think with him, he feels as though he's rich. He has power. You can't, I'm Teflon. You can't, nothing is going to stick on me. So he just maneuvers in such a way where I want Cuba. I want this. and I'm going to take it. So, but those lessons learned that are coming through our households, where our children are seeing this, I think that those are the things that really make me very fearful of where we're going, but I hopefully someone in Washington is watching this podcast so that we can really get a handle on this.
Yes.
Because I do believe that the intellectual mind needs to take some kind of stance, because I don't know where that is anymore, that humanistic intellectual mind that can guide a smoother path. And Charles, you've been a master at even just negotiating with people for business and getting in between the naysayers and making them say yes versus no. But what do you think your tactic is? Because you definitely, with your dialogue, with the way you handle people, you truly are a people person.
Well, I think that really comes down to just being self-aware and really carefully analyzing the situation from the front to all the way to the back. Like when you get into a conversation, where do you want it to end? Are you clear on your path and what it's going to require? What's going to be required for you to get along that path? And you don't allow anything to get in the way. Everything is just going to be. There's going to be things that are going to come into, that you're going to be confronted with, that you're going to be able to you're going to have to handle those things in such a way that it's going to be productive and you're going to get to the end result. And if you're thinking about yourself and you're not thinking about the other person, then you're already at a disadvantage. Yeah. It really just helps to be clear and and just to use good judgment. From the moment you open up your mouth, you just have to just really be mindful, because everything that you do is going to have a reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think people don't understand, Lamonte, the consequences. Especially when are younger, they really don't understand the real consequence of one's actions. So,
Yes.
how do you make that a reality, when it hasn't happened yet? When you're talking to somebody to control their anger, domestic violence is huge. So
Hmm.
even in those situations, if you hit her, if you will go to, but they still can't conceptualize
Yeah.
that consequence of something happening to them versus what they want to do to somebody else.
What's interesting about it, because dealing with young people, one thing we need to understand as adults. That's why it's important to model good behavior. Your prefrontal cortex does not fully develop till you're 25 years old. All
Hmm.
right. So if you're talking to a young person who does not necessarily have these critical thinking skills, that behavior need to be modeled. But what I used to talk to young people about, I used to give them my story. And then it's funny because I had an uncle that do 36 years in prison, and I let them talk to him on the telephone. And I tell them prison is not club paradise. So if you think you bad, you think you tough, I want you to understand there's some real consequences. Now, what's interesting, when I used to work at Von Tobel Middle School, there was a young man. I used to talk to him all the time. Well, when I left the school district, the next time I saw him was when I was in law enforcement. And here's the one thing he said, Mr. Faison, I should have listened. Okay.
Mm.
So I can talk to you young people until you blue in the face. It is still you that got to make a decision. It's still you that has to make a choice. We can talk till we're blue in the face. Same thing with adults. I teach adult domestic violence classes. It's the same thing. So what I always recommend is go get counseling. If you are impulsive and you can't seem to get around or over what it is that you're going through, get yourself some counseling so you can gather the coping skills necessarily to refrain from being physical, all right, and being emotionally abusive. And what people don't understand, that domestic violence is not just physical. If we're in a relationship with intimate partner and you take my telephone, you can actually go to jail for domestic violence. Right?
Mm.
Anytime you get in the way or stop somebody from leaving the house or put your hand in front of the doorway, you, my friend, can go to jail. If the police if somebody calls the police, Kimberly and Charles are yelling in the house, something's going on, and you get over there, y'all ain't nobody hit each other, wasn't nobody physical. The police shows up, one of you guys are going to jail, and you're going to have to plead guilty or not guilty for that particular situation. Right. So
Wow.
again, all you can do is give information. Sometimes I send videos of guys who have made those mistakes. Again, it's still on the young people or the adults to make a choice for themselves. William Glasser, to make a choice for themselves. And I'll say this real quick.
Mm.
When I got kicked out of the military and I was young, I blamed everybody except me.
Mm.
At some point as a young man, I had to take responsibility for my own actions and say, no, this is my fault. If you don't ever come to that point, there's going to be consequences, and nobody will be able to save you from those consequences if you're not in a position to say, I hear you, I listen, let me get help. You have to be in a position to say, I want to win. All
That's
right.
right. I
Period.
want to
There's no
win.
magic. There's no magic wand for this.
Wow. And I just wanted to cover one last thing before we sign off. Now we have ICE agents, even working in the airports as TSA agents. We have ICE agents in various cities around the country. And the police, the police are there too, but you have both. So if one is, especially our young black men, black women, anybody of color, and we're pulled over,
Mm.
what is it? Because now with social media, we believe that we can just pull out our camera. We put it on camera because we are feeling violated, because we've been pulled over, which might be an irritant to an ICE agent or a police officer that
Mhm.
pulled you over. So we want to put it on social media and those type of things. Where do we go so wrong, or where are we going right? And what should we do if we're pulled over?
That's a great question. The first thing I'm going to say is put your hand on the steering wheel. Let your hands be seen. Okay. You don't want to give anybody any excuse like they didn't know what you were doing. And I taught this class before, so it's a great question. If you're filming, then that camera needs to be on a holder in the vehicle. You don't want to be doing this. You don't want to be reaching. You don't want to do any of those things, and then comply with the individual. Here's why I say that. Even if the officer is wrong, you're not going to deal with it right there on the spot. you're going to lose that 9 out of 10 times. Okay. Keep your hand on the steering wheel, get the badge number if possible. Usually the person's name is on the ticket if they gave you a citation, and then you report that later. But don't jump out of the car like I've seen some people do on video. What you pulled me over for? Huh? That is a bad move. And I had a discussion with a friend of mine one time. He said, did they have to shoot him? I said, I don't know what he was doing with his hands, because if you put me in that position, it's going to be his life before it's mine. So my recommendation is put your hands on that steering wheel. All right. Same thing in the inside for corrections. We deal with issues all the time. We have shields. When you go in there, I want to see your hands, sir. I want to make sure you don't have a shank. Right? I want to see your hands. I want to make sure I can see what's going on. It's the same thing for those officers, white and black. And black officers will tell you the same thing. Dude, I need to see your hands. I can't have you moving around in a car. Right?
The person getting pulled over doesn't realize that there's already an intimidation by the officer. They're already put at a disadvantage when they walk up to a car. They don't know you from Adam. You might be uncomfortable while you're driving somewhere. So they see you, you look uncomfortable, you don't seem pleasant. So at that point, they're already going to be, a lot more fearful and fear, emotion that drives impulse. And if you're not responding in a positive manner because you're uncomfortable with this officer coming to your car, then it's kind of like a bomb ready to go off. So the best thing to do as that person getting pulled over is to smile and greet the officer and be as compliant as possible.
Yes.
And to offset that officer's discomfort. However you can offset that discomfort, the smoother of a chance that you have of that situation going. If you have the opposite attitude, you're going to see what we always see on social media. Is the brother gets shot because he's arguing and yelling at the officer, because he has a personal thing with authority.
Yes.
That's expected. So if you can just counter that, you will get out of that situation alive. At best, the ticket might not even happen. If the officer feels that you've handled yourself in a way that is productive and positive, the officer might say, you know what, I'm really impressed with your attitude. Next time you might want to slow it down and have a good day. And I think that's kind of the messaging that doesn't get out enough. How to handle those situations.
Yeah, we need to do that, and because I do think it's very important. I remember when I got pulled over, I turned my car off, put my hands on the steering wheel, and I was an officer at the time, and so we had a conversation. Of course, he let me go, but I didn't. I put my hands on the wheel because that officer does not know me.
That's right.
Right? When we come up to the car and we look in the car, I need your hands on the wheel so I can see. And so I teach that. Put your hands on the wheel. Let them see your hands. Don't be fidgeting. Don't be talking nonsense. And don't be acting out and opening the door and jumping out of the car. That is not going to bode well for you. Right? Very important.
Yeah. All right, Lamonte, thank you so much. Lamonte Faison, owner and founder of Anger Management 702. Now, Lamonte, how can one get in touch with you if they would like to have a class, come see you? How do they get in touch?
The phone number is 702-467-0167. That is Anger Management 702, 702-467-0167. And one of the things that I do in Nevada, it might be a couple of us do this, I specialize in one-on-one sessions for anger management. Also high-profile clients and celebrities, right? So one-on-one sessions is better being in a class with 25 people, right? So if you have your son, I deal with teens all the way to 80, 90 years old. If you got the issue, let's sit down and talk about it. So I'm also at You Versus Yourself podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel and you can be notified of the updates and new content.
Wonderful. Lamonte, thank you so much for being on
You got it. Thank you.
702. That's truly a pleasure. A lot of great information. Trust me, I know. Hands on the wheel. Okay. Got that one.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
We're going to be happy. Again, we want to thank you all for tuning in to Enterprising People 702. Again, click right there on subscribe and become a subscriber to Enterprising People 702. It's free, and we'll keep you updated on all the future shows that are coming up and all the new content. And thank you, Charles, for being on with me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Great seeing you.
Having a co-pilot. Yes.
Thank you, Lamonte.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, Charles.
We want to thank silverstatesmiles.com, voted best dentist here in Nevada.
Definitely.
You can give them a call, 702-470-1775. And again, I want to thank you and you too for being enterprising people.